And then early on, not so much anymore, but early on, we also had kind of the lawyers saying, I don't want to look slick. Again, didn't matter if
Yep,
they were
I hear
plaintiff or
that.
defendant. I don't want to look slick.
Right.
But what we have invariably heard is all the jurors have kids that make better PowerPoints than most of the lawyers are showing. Sorry.
Right.
But that's true. That's
a fact.
I've literally walked out of a courtroom in Dade County, where I'm in Miami-Dade County, and I've overheard a juror say, my 9-year-old does a better presentation.
Ouch.
That's really not
that.
supposed to be it's not disparaging to the lawyer, though. The point is that this technology is ubiquitous.
Yeah. Right.
That's a great
right.
word.
Yeah.
And so everyone expects you to be able to use, whether it's an iPad or a laptop or PowerPoint or Keynote or whatever it is.
Right.
Juries expect you to be able to use that. It's not being slick.
Welcome to the Apps of Law podcast. I am your host, Brett Birdie. This is another special edition of the Developers Edition of the Apps of Law podcast, and I'm very excited about this one. Today, I have Tara Cheever from Lit Software. Now, you may not know the name Lit Software right off the bat, but if you are a lawyer that has ever used an iPad in your practice, you are most certainly familiar with at least the 3 apps so far that Lit Software develops, and that is TranscriptPad, TrialPad, and DocReviewPad. Now, these are some of the best legal-specific apps available on the market today for the iPad. And I have actually had the honor of watching Tara and Ian and their team develop these apps over the several years now. It's pretty amazing how long you guys have been working on this, Tara, which is just great. And if you're an active Apps and Law podcast listener, then you know that the company recently converted their apps into the Lit Suite on a subscription basis. And that is exactly one of the reasons I wanted to invite Tara onto the podcast to talk all about that, answer some questions, discuss the updates and the new features to the apps, which all look really, really amazing. But first, Tara, why don't you share just a little bit about your background, why you and Ian even got into this thing, why you started developing apps in the first place, and talk a little bit about how we got to this point today.
Yeah, so ages ago, actually, funnily enough, we met you, I think, 11 years ago in Tech Show.
Oh, my goodness. I
2011.
didn't even add that up. You're probably right.
It was 10 years, so because we're in 2021. 10 years ago.
Wow.
It wasn't in Tech Show. It was in Legal Tech in New York, and you said,
yes,
you should go to Tech Show. And you're absolutely right. And honestly, that was one of the best things we've done, because Tech Shows, I know it's in a different format now because of the pandemia.
Everything's in, right.
Because of everything. But Tech Show was a really fantastic place for us to be able to meet with our customers. So backing up, how did we start? iPad came out in 2010. Ian owned a company here in South Florida where Lit Software is based. That was a trial presentation company. And if you're a litigator and you've been in trial, you've probably seen the guy or gal in the back of the room that you kind of say, can you bring up Exhibit 10, highlight paragraph 3, do all of that. And there were a couple of litigators around the country that would try to do that, on their own, but it's tough to bring a laptop up to the lectern, mouse, et cetera, all that. And when the iPad came out, where this was, I know that many companies had kind of experimented with the touch screens and the tablets and all of that before, but this was the first for real go of a tablet that we saw ever. And Ian kind of said, wow, this is the thing. Lawyers can pick this up, not attached to anything. I have my iPad here. Walk up to the lectern, present. Sit back down. This is the great freer. They don't have to shout to their assistant in the back of the room, man behind the curtain, the great Oz, whatever you want to call it. And they can present on their own. And so I was talking recently with an attorney, just as an aside, about kind of strategies in interacting with the jury. And whether you're a plaintiff or defense, it doesn't matter, right? You want to be the person that the jury looks to for the truth. And the more barriers, physical and otherwise, that you put between yourself and the jury, the worse off you are. So the ideal is to be able to be that contemporaneous truth-telling, this is my story, guy or gal, stand up, relate to the jury, and have some magical display of all of your evidence happening behind you. And that's what this was like. That was the dream. And
that's great.
I think that's what we've got going now. That's the
absolutely.
So we were really excited about that.
I sometimes talk about it, Tara, in the sense that if you in a regular courtroom, you might have to stand at a lectern, and sometimes you have to if that's what the rules are. But you're right. If you've got a laptop in front of you, I mean, that I know it's small and it seems like it should be inconspicuous, but that makes a big difference. Other than somebody walking around with something that's about the size of a yellow legal pad and being able to interact and get close and just kind of, it's a little bit more of an intimate, more informal. And you're right. I think that even if it's a subconscious level, that makes a huge difference when you're trying to present your case or, your evidence or ask questions of the witness. I think that's a big point there.
And the important thing too is that it's flexible, right? So you depends what kind of lawyer you are. Some lawyers do better behind a lectern, standing there with the iPad just sitting on the lectern, but it doesn't matter. They're there at the lectern. Some lawyers are walkers. They walk up to the jury. They like to approach the witness and the judge as much as they can or as much as allowed. And no matter what your presentation, you can have your same personality and just hold something small, like you said, smaller than a legal pad, but it's got all the same power. And then early on, not so much anymore, but early on, we also had kind of the lawyers saying, I don't want to look slick. Again, didn't matter if they were playing.
I hear that.
Defense, I don't want to look slick.
Right.
But what we have invariably heard is all the jurors have kids that make better PowerPoints than most of the lawyers are showing. Sorry.
Right.
But that's true.
That's a fact.
I've literally walked out of a courtroom in Dade County, where I'm in Miami-Dade County, and I've overheard a juror say, my 9-year-old does a better presentation.
Ouch.
That's really not supposed to be it's not disparaging to the lawyer, though. The point is that this technology is ubiquitous.
Yeah. Right.
That's a great word.
Yeah.
And so everyone expects you to be able to use, whether it's an iPad or a laptop or PowerPoint or Keynote or whatever it is.
Right.
Juries expect you to be able to use that. It's not being slick. And in fact, now the lawyers that use the old-fashioned overhead projector, Elmo, whatever you want to call it, use just the piece of paper, which I think is going to be really difficult in COVID, and even post-COVID, or who use the big boards. While I think there's probably a place to have like a board in the courtroom, depending on the theme of the case or whatever. That's what makes you not look like you're prepared. Right. You want to look prepared. You want to look like you're on top of the facts of the case. You want to look like you're doing the very best for your client, whether that client is a big multinational or a little guy. And this is another thing I like to say. I think most litigators know that whenever they're in court, it's probably one of the most important days of their client's life. So you want to be doing the very best for your client. Right.
I will even say, I know you do, I think even you personally do a good job of taking care of the blog at Lit Software. You guys do a great job of like highlighting different people. And I remember one you did, must have been a few years ago, Bobby Truitt, because I just remember his name. And he talked about in the blog post, he's got the Truitt Trial Box, I think is what he called it, right? And to your point, Tara, he just talks about how it's a like a rolling suitcase, I think, that has the Apple TV and the adapters he needs for the iPad. Now, he may have to bring in a monitor or a screen if the courtroom doesn't have one, but he's in Louisiana, I remember, and he talked about going to like some of these, I think his word was like
County. That's very rural.
I think he called it like backwoods courts or something. Cause I get that thing. I get that from a lot of attorneys too, Tara. They say, I can't look fancy like a big city lawyer, that kind of a thing. And the point is that using something like an iPad, even with TrialPad or with something else, the fact that Bobby Truitt, I just love that name.
Not another thing.
Yeah, I know. What I'm just saying that he can take all of that with him into the room and set up, and it doesn't look flashy to that extent. In fact, it just looks like he knows what he's doing. He looks like he's got it under control, even though he's just got a little bit of the equipment. He doesn't have to do the wires, because I know where Ian has come from. We used to have to go wires back and forth between the courtroom, and certainly with the iPad, you can do a wireless presentation. Anyway, just underscoring your point that I think that is exciting that the technology has come to the point now where it is useful. And what I love so much about TrialPad, because I've used some of the other big name trial presentation software, But TrialPad specifically is so good about just being able to use your finger. You don't have to know a mouse. You don't have to get into a huge honking database of some kind. Mm-hmm. Everything is right there. And to me, that's just almost like democratizing the technology a little bit, which you can tell I'm a pretty big fan.
Let me just add to what Bobby has going, what Mr. Truitt has going is in a funny secret way.
I've never met him, so I should call him Mr. Truitt.
You should.
Yeah, okay, good.
He's a great guy. But what he has a leg up in a way, because if you go to the federal courthouses that are already wired, I always recommend go the Friday before the Monday when trial starts. Make sure it's all working.
Right.
You don't know what cable got disconnected, on the Thursday, or who was in there before. He's got his own trial kit. That's flawless. He's been practicing on that exact same equipment.
Right.
Putting up a monitor. It's not a lot to carry a little monitor under your arms. Throwing an Apple TV on the back of it. I don't know who smokes anymore, but it's the size of 2 packs of cigarettes, something like that.
I gotcha.
I don't know. That's what I've been told.
That's what you've heard. Yeah.
And between those two things, now, no matter what size the courtroom, the iPad needs to be within around 30 feet of your Apple TV. I have not yet been, and I've been to pretty big courtrooms. I've not yet been in a courtroom where you're going to be more than 30 feet away from whatever display you're using. But the point being, him having his own equipment, some people might go, oh, that's a little bit of an impediment. I know plenty of lawyers who work in huge, and I mean really big law firms that do big federal cases, and they secretly have in the back trunk a little projector and a pop-up screen, or it's a just in case kind of a thing. If this doesn't work, I'm still ready to go. I'm still presenting.
Absolutely.
Because you can't turn to the judge and say, sorry, judge, your courtroom equipment doesn't work. Can you please continue the trial?
Right. Okay. One more point at the risk of beating this to a dead horse.
We can edit.
Not only post, right? I can, but this is so good. We're keeping everything in here. The last thing I just wanted to mention is having an iPad. One of the things that I was so discouraged about when I helped out trial teams, because I was like the guy, like you said, in the back of the room, driving the laptop. It was pulling teeth to get the litigation team together to practice on that. Mm-hmm. So inevitably, the day of the trial, they think they know what they're going to ask me for, but they don't. And then I don't pull up what they want. And then, of course, they blame it on me. The fact that somebody like Mr. Truitt could have an iPad and they have access to TrialPad in this app, they can practice constantly, right? I mean, in other words, they can get very skilled at it to where, again, they're not looking slick. They're just looking efficient. And they're able to practice even on their own time sitting on the couch because it's just on the iPad. I know that sounds... It may sound silly. Yeah.
That's a great point, because here's the thing. It's actually more than that. What ends up happening is that people who use TrialPad, they've been living with that case on their iPad. And not only do they know their case inside out, way better than you ever could or anybody ever could.
Exactly.
As the person in the courtroom. They know the muscle memory of exactly where they have stored, what they've named. And you don't want to be the guy in the courtroom who thinks that everybody's going to call a Bates stamp out, and then they just say, "Can you bring up that January 20th memo?" And you're like,
"Right.
What are you talking about?
What exhibit number is that, please?" Yeah.
And so that's the other power of it, is when you've got something that's so portable, that's with you all the time, it's living with you all the time. It's second nature to just pull up a document. It doesn't matter what it's called. You know what it is. You've seen it before. And we have, little thumbnail images that show you just in case you don't remember all that stuff.
Love that. Okay. So I know we've been talking about TrialPad, and I guess you could call that maybe your marquee app, not because I necessarily think it's the best one, although it is fantastic. But you've got the two other apps. One of the ones that I know I talk about even more maybe than TrialPad, even because that's really kind of like that is the nice thing to show, right? That's what everybody wants to see. But your TranscriptPad app, Tara, has I know personally I have helped more lawyers probably use the TranscriptPad app, because not everybody's going to go to a trial necessarily, right? Or a hearing, but everybody is definitely going to be having to juggle transcripts. And you guys have continued to develop that app. You pull in a text file. You can have your exhibits there. I love the way that you can quickly just go in and tag sections of text and tag it with an issue designation or a flag or something. So the TranscriptPad app, it should not be left in the dust, even though TrialPad, we talk about that quite a bit. And then you have DocReviewPad, which is really a fantastic app for literally reviewing documents if you need to produce to the other side, that kind of a thing. So I just wanted you to talk a little bit more about some of the other apps as well, TranscriptPad and DocReviewPad.
Yeah, TranscriptPad has gotten a really big upgrade with the Lit Suite. One of the huge features that was requested for a while, and let me just back up and say, we love our customers. I'm not kidding. We love our customers. And I think obvious. Our customers know that value. We are happy to talk with them. If they're having a question, we engage with them all the time. And the reason for that is a lot because they really help us to make sure that these apps are not just usable, but used, right? So there's software out the wazoo all over the place. And I'm sure there's some really fantastic stuff out there. But if you've bought it and it's on your computer and you're not using it, it's literally useless, right? So we want to make sure that our apps are not only usable, but that they're used. And when our customers say, I'm loving this, but if you could just add this feature, and we hear that from a couple people, that's what we do. We add the feature. So one of the big features we added upon release of the Lit Suite was to be able to do a search term and then annotate those search results. So now you can search across your entire case for a specific term. And when you annotate the search results and turn that into an issue code, it doesn't just grab the line. It grabs, if it's in an answer, it grabs the question before. And if it's in a question, it grabs the answer after. So you've always got that question answer pair. Sometimes it ends up being more if it's, repeated over and over. And it's a really nice way to find your search term and also see the context, like, okay, so this person mentioned our case is two breweries suing each other, our sample case that we have. And I'll tell you a little bit about that too. It's kind of a cool background story with Baylor University that they allowed us to use a problem case that they had created for their Top Gun. But
very nice.
It's these two breweries. And so if you search beer in the sample case for transcript, you're going to get a whole bunch of results. But what is the point of a result if you're just getting the line? You need to have the question that was asked as well as the answer. So it does that. And then we're working on now a feature that's going to be our next update. There's a little scoop for you. Because we've gotten lots of people who are collaborating and they've got their whole case, and they've got one transcript, and they might have an associate, let's say, do a first pass review.
Yep, exactly. So I hear this a lot.
Yeah, so now the associate will be able to do that review and then just send that transcript to you for you to incorporate into the bigger case, all the same issues. You're going to see all their work, and then you can continue reviewing from there.
Probably the main way that I talk about using TranscriptPad, just to kind of introduce people to the idea of like, you need to be looking at this, is I historically, I've always worked with attorneys that have said, well, I got to go summarize this transcript, right? Or they have to give it to a paralegal to say, summarize this transcript for me. I don't want to read all 530 pages. So I see they literally bring up the transcript on one side and a Word document on the other side, and they copy and paste like sections. And what I keep telling people in something like TranscriptPad, first of all, why let somebody else do the first pass? Because a lot of attorneys don't want somebody else to do it. They want to do it so they can learn more about their case. They want to be more knowledgeable about their case. Totally get that. In TranscriptPad, if you go in and you start highlighting those sections, either issue designations or searches, just like what you're talking about, the reports that you guys can spit out of the TranscriptPad has just been fantastic. You can do a PDF that has the page and line numbers with the text, or I even like your Excel export, which people look at me kind of like, well, why would I send something to Excel? That's a great way. It is. It's different worksheets. Exactly. I love. Okay, good. I knew you knew what I was going to be talking about there. But anyway, I love the fact you have the reports, because I tell people, essentially what you're doing is you are summarizing a transcript and you're doing it for yourself. And you've got this beautiful PDF now that you can refer to because you've read the whole thing and you have that accessible there. So I'm excited to see what you're going to continue to do on the reports on that side as well.
We have customers. That's the other thing that we totally revamped, by the way, and I'll talk about that in a second, is the impeachment reports. Good. But we have customers who will do the summary PDF report and just say trial designation. And then all it does is it spits out the page lines, and they say, attached as my Exhibit A to this motion is all the things that I plan to use. And you can do that you can take all your transcripts from your entire case, assign trial designation to all the different transcripts, spit out one PDF report, attach it, and make opposing counsel go look up the page lines. So, you can do it with just the page lines attached, and it's done. And it's so much faster than having a paralegal or your legal secretary sit there. And look, every single time I've seen them, and we're talking about very hardworking perfectionist people, you still have a keystroke error where it's like, it ends up page 25, line 26, and there's no line 26. So is it 16? Did they mean 6? Did they mean 25? So it eliminates all of that error. It's so fast, and it's just, you draft your same motion. A lot of times that's something you've already got in Word. You're filling in, a new case style, a new whatever, new date, and then you're just attaching your exhibit. Impeachment reports are these really nicely formatted reports that we've created. And if you're using TrialPad in conjunction, this is something you can go into TranscriptPad, search all your transcripts, or even just the one where you go, I know this guy said that. And we're talking about in the middle of a witness examination, search a term, find what he actually said. You can do a couple finger swipe across. Next thing you know, you're in TrialPad and you're presenting a really nicely formatted, just the page line. You can still highlight it. You can call out that section. It's very powerful. And for people that are really using our apps and pushing them, that's been, really vanguard kind of practice.
That's been huge. Yeah.
Last minute. Oh, by the way, I think you're the man behind Snapshots and TrialPad.
Oh,
speaking of customers that say we really would like this.
I know I've talked about this before.
You're an example. You're an example of someone who said, I would love to be able to do this. And we went, that's a great idea.
Oh, good. So okay.
I even did a blog post on Snapshots, because now from that, we've got customers who, they'll do a highlight and a call out and watch the jury or the judge or a mediator go, oh, that's interesting. That whoever's the fact finder, and they'll just go snapshot, snapshot, snapshot. By the end of their trial, they've got a closing argument done.
Exactly.
All salient pieces, exactly the way they presented them. And, and then in the order that they presented them, because Snapshots takes the snapshot, literally the date, timestamp, everything. So, you've got a mini trial of exactly what all you went through. And it's kind of powerful. So thank you.
I remember when you first had TrialPad, you had key docs, right? Which was a fantastic thing. It was almost kind of a quasi snapshot, I guess, because you could change the annotations. But the snapshot, I remember when you added that, it was just great because it literally took a screen snapshot. Mm-hmm. I used to think, to me, it's all going to depend on the individual, but I like to do call outs and highlights in real time because I want people to be watching what I'm doing, right? And that kind of draws them in a little bit more. But I recognize when I work with some attorneys, they don't want to do it in real time. They just want to pre-annotate something, right? And then they can either take a snapshot or they can do a key doc and then they can just bring that up. So it's just great that you're giving people additional options on how to approach it.
Yeah. And so we obviously we still have key docs for sure.
Right.
One thing I can say that's been really powerful during this whole pandemic is, look, all the depositions just started to go on to Zoom or something similar. And invariably, you've got a client or a party that's decided to join the Zoom on their phone. And there's just, how do you view a document on your phone? Really. And so being able to do that call out, it's so important, especially for people that are just joining on a phone or are joining on a
that's a great point.
A smaller device, because you're asking them to comment on a document or review a document. Do you recognize the signature? And if you're not able to do a call out or a truly proper Zoom, because I don't mean Zoom as in the Zoom call, but zooming in.
Because I've seen Zoom.
Because I've seen, there's attorneys that I've seen in Zoom depositions saying, let me just share my screen, and then you've got an Adobe document or multiple tabs in the background of there, and it's not ideal. What you want is a nice solid background, whether it's a black or gradient or white background, just the document you want to show, and then the ability to call out and highlight that stuff. That's the thing, and
it's great.
And it's easy. It's really, really easy.
That's great. Okay, so real quickly, because I hate that we give this app short shrift a little bit, but DocReviewPad.
It's the pariah of our apps. I know. It shouldn't be. It's so powerful.
I know. Well, so I know about it because I do a lot of e-discovery work, and so I'm using big, huge honking databases like Relativity or Logical or Everlaw or something, or Summation even still today. Some of those aspects. And so I remember when DocReviewPad came out, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of was like, well, that's not going to be for everybody, but I don't think you meant it to be for everybody. And actually last year, before the world imploded, at the ABA Tech Show, there was a gentleman in one of my sessions that I was giving a presentation, Tara, And he came up and said, well, why aren't you talking about DocReviewPad? I use this every single day. I don't know if it was the small claims that he was dealing with or some of the, smaller type cases, but he only had a handful of documents most of the time. And DocReviewPad was perfect for what he was doing. He could go in, get documents from the other side or from his client. He could, tag it, whether it's responsive or not, bait stamp it if he needs to, and send a production to the other side. And he could do it all from his iPad. Mm-hmm. So my eyes were opened even that day, and just even watching the app has how much it has improved over the years, that it's really a fantastic app as well. And it holds its own, even with TranscriptPad and TrialPad.
DocReviewPad is one of those ones that if you know, right? So that's what I like to say.
Good way to say it.
Because when people now really start using DocReviewPad, they go, oh, wow, my life could be so much easier.
Now you get it.
And also the pandemic it did, the world imploded. It changed a lot of things, but what it really did was it pushed a lot of people out of their offices, away from their desk. And I think we and a lot of people always knew that being tied to your desk isn't ideal. So for people who wanted to review their documents on the way to deposition, for example, with TranscriptPad or with TrialPad or with DocReviewPad, they could do that in the back of an Uber. Someone else is driving, they can review, they're prepping for depot, they get to depot. Well, now everyone's kind of been at home for a year. And we're seeing two things happening. Number one, a lot of people use Macs personally and use Windows machines at work.
Right.
So at home, they're going, please don't make me go to my office and unplug all that stuff and bring this to my home. Just tell me how I can get this to work. And again, the pandemic has, since it's untethered people, and people have started to taste the freedom, then people go, okay, so now I've got my iPad. I can be anywhere and do this same work.
Right.
And DocReviewPad, it's not like a big e-discovery program. You're not deduping. You're not using AI to comb through the stuff. You're not doing translations. But after you've done all that, even with really enormous cases, DocReviewPad can handle all that stuff. It can bait stamp in a flash of an eye. We've added some little funny details to it, like being able to put a colored bait stamp, a colored background on your bait stamp, because I don't know how many times you've gotten a production set and it's been produced 10 times before, and there's baits on baits on baits. So it's nice to be able to be like, I'm the yellow
Clean
baits.
It up. Right.
I can see it right away. This is me. Putting a box, changing the size of it, automatically adding a confidential prefix to every bait. Like, these are little details that are in DocReviewPad. And what we did when we did the Lit Suite is we totally redid the export. So it is so granular, so granular.
That's great.
You can export only what you want. So we've got people who, maybe they do big med mal cases and they get a big document from the hospital.
Right.
And they don't even want to bother issue coding. They just want to highlight the stuff that's important as they go through this 1,000-page document.
Right.
Now they can say, export all the pages that I put a highlight on, but don't put the highlight on them. I just want to have all the pages that I think are important from this document. And we can do that with the bait stamp on.
Right.
And it's become very, very powerful. And not only that, but TrialPad obviously really interacts with DocReviewPad. So now if you have been issue coding, the way I've seen a lot of people using DocReviewPad and TrialPad together in the pandemic is, for example, have all your documents, your whole world that you could possibly use in DocReviewPad.
All of them, okay.
Issue code for a witness. You've got Mr. Smith coming up for depot, make an issue code for Mr. Smith. All your documents you go through, I might want to ask Mr. Smith about this, export to TrialPad, everything from Mr. Smith. You get a little folder in KeyDocs with all Mr. Smith's stuff, and now you're sitting in depot with Mr. Smith with only the stuff that you thought you might ask about.
Interesting.
If you did that in trial, you could issue code for every witness coming up, and you'd have a little folder in KeyDocs automatically created with all the stuff that you could possibly ask them about. We have a little custom sort. You can put it in the order you want. And TrialPad now has notes that allow up to 4,000 characters. So, I mean, you can literally have your entire witness examination right there.
Okay, we're going to get to the new features. That is, my eyes are becoming more open now onto DocReviewPad.
I thought you were going to say glazed.
Just your vision. No. Just the way I think that they are, that all of the apps that you guys are continuing, because I've seen it from 10 years ago now, unbelievable. But I've seen it grow, and I've seen how many features that you guys have put into this, and truly I know it's from requests that have been sent to you. Okay, but let's quickly, I wanted to just kind of give a quick overview of the three apps, because up until about 2 months ago, the way that people could get the apps were you could buy each app individually, or I know a while back you guys also bundled all three of them together, right? So you could save a little bit of money on the App Store if you went in and you bought them as the bundle. I think it was a Lit Software bundle. You could get all three apps, or you could purchase them separately. I will just say, because I know you guys have heard this pushback, a lot of times I talk about TrialPad and TranscriptPad and DocReviewPad a lot. And I usually get the question, well, how much does the app cost? And I would usually make a joke like, well, it's not Angry Birds money, but then again, you're not buying Angry Birds software here. Like, to purchase something that's comparable to what you can do even on TrialPad would be putting several $100s into something like Trial Director or Sanction. Those are the two big names that have been around for a long time. That's Windows software that is exactly what you were describing before. And when you compare those apples to the TrialPad apple, you were getting an incredible bargain that you could pretty much do exactly the same thing. Now what you've done 3 months ago, although it wasn't like new news, but you now offer all three apps in a suite. It's called the Lit Suite. You've referred to it a couple of times there, so that you can get all three apps. And it's on a subscription basis now. I know lots of people have problems or issues with subscriptions in general, like Microsoft Office 365 or Adobe. Pretty much all of the big software companies are going that way. But with you, I just wanted to point out, this wasn't something new. In fact, I looked back on your blog. It was December 2017.
We said winter is coming.
Exactly. I loved it. It was like the Game of Thrones kind of an idea, right? It was just like winter, subscriptions are coming.
Yeah.
And you guys laid out a beautiful case there as to why it is necessary. And you were repeating some things that have kind of gone around the blogosphere, as it were, because it is the way that we are going to be buying software, which is why Microsoft is doing it and Adobe has done it and many others, because what it really does is makes or ensures that the consumers continue to get these great updates, and it ensures that you as developers continue to listen to the consumers, right? And that makes a huge difference on there. So just real quick, December 2017, you guys were talking about this. You were very fair and open and transparent. I think that a year later, you wrote another blog post about, hey, we know we're going to go to this eventually. I'm sure you answered a lot of questions on this. And so now we're in January or February 2020, and we finally have gone to this subscription. And we're going to get into all the features that are beautiful about the subscription. But anyway, just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Those are a couple of my thoughts on the suite and the subscription there, but wanted you to share a little bit about the change, because I know it's pretty big on your end as well.
Well, so like you mentioned, we were probably early in announcing in terms of like the direction everyone was going, and we're late in actually going to it, right? So in between, so it's true, right? You're talking about Microsoft, you're talking about Adobe. When you talk about they have gone. That's been subscription now for a while.
That's right.
And we didn't take it lightly. We really interrogated our users in a good way, not in like a light, on Elliot Ness.
You just ask questions, yeah.
We asked, but what do you think this is worth? How's this working for your practice? Would you, why would you buy TrialPad but not look at DocReviewPad and realize how well they work together? Is that that's so it was a really big question mark for us as to how we implement it. We were really careful about it.
Yes.
We were really thoughtful, I think, about it.
Yes.
So that's why we announced in 2017. Took the time, did the research, not just about pricing, but about what capabilities people really wanted, because you can add as much as you want. What you get is bloat, right? You want to have capability without complexity, and bloated software, that right clicky, I'm going to break it, databasey stuff. It's not attractive. It's not usable. It's got tons of capabilities that no one ever uses. So they shouldn't be there. And so we as a company just took a really long time. I mean, in app development, I suppose it's a really long time, but we're also dinosaurs in terms of like app development, because we've been around for 10 years and most app companies haven't. And I think
You're
actually
just experienced.
I think that actually says a really good thing about us, because we've been capable of listening to what people want. We've been capable of staying on the store and staying relevant and staying useful and used.
Right. Right.
So that whole capability without complexity theme, that whole usable software that actually gets used theme kind of really fed into our decision to go to subscription. And then the deliberation that we took in choosing the price. I mean, it's as simple as you can look at some of the big just trial presentations. So that for us, that would just be TrialPad. And for our app, it's half the price as your desktop trial presentation software, which is, by the way, also a subscription. And you're going to pay for support, which you don't have to pay for support from us.
Or what they call software maintenance, right? I mean, we've had subscriptions for a long time. I just wanted to point that out real quick. All of the law firms that I know, they make one big purchase of some kind of a software like the trial presentation application software, but they pay an annual software maintenance. That's a subscription. Okay, anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
they do a per seat, or they have this kind of a very nebulous, and by they, it's like the great they. This is lots of different companies. You'd say, well, what company are you with? What's your zip code? Give me your area code, and I can give you your price after we have a sales meeting. That's not us. We're very transparent with our software. We love our customers who've been with us for ages, so they get a discount because we know, hey, you've been with us. You've tried us when we were a small app in 2011 out on the App Store, and those guys we've always tried to reward them, and honestly, they've helped us. That, like I mentioned, I'm very serious about the fact that our customers help us with our development, and so it's a symbiosis there. So the apps right now, we're in the launch period. The apps are $399.99 per year. It's an annual subscription. You get as many or as few as you want, right? It's $299 if you're a legacy user. Basically, if you've got some,
like you've had one of the older apps. Okay, I got you on that. And like you said, again, I know when we talk about the App Store, the reaction I get from a lot of people is, "Oh my goodness, what was that again?" But again, don't compare it to a free radio app or a game that you're doing. This is not the same. This is professional grade software that you are using. And once you understand a lot of the things we just were talking about, Tara, once you start using it in your practice, you realize how invaluable that it is and how it supports. It is absolutely worth the investment on there. And
plus, you get mobility. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. I was just going to say,
and you get collaboration. No one wants to collaborate with, a big trial presentation software. No one's trying to collaborate. How can I send this database to my? No one's doing that. But you can do that with TrialPad because it's just this little packet. You can airdrop your whole case to your co-counsel, and then all of a sudden they're ready to present too. It's a new paradigm in a lot of ways.
I know that there was a point in my nerd tech career that I would look at subscriptions to be like, man, who would want to do subscriptions? But now I have come full circle to that. And I look at it as that's a commitment on the side of a developer to say, like, we're charging a subscription because we are committed to continuing to improve what we are offering out there. And that's a big deal. And now as a consumer from your apps or anything else, I want to support that. I want the additional updates.
And I buy as many subscriptions as you want, Brett.
Right. Thank you. But the thing is like, I want to support that because I know then that in the past, what is it? I would have bought TrialPad one time, and then I'm going to expect you to continue to update that for me over the next 10 or 15 years without me paying you anything more. I guess I can see where somebody might think that that's a legitimate way to approach it. But now I just see kind of the fallacy in that. Like, no, I want to continue to support what you're doing because I want to see more awesome features being updated. And I know that a subscription to me is a way that can guarantee that for years to come.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, like I said, we really thought about it a lot. But when we looked at our price points, we also looked at, hey, most people aren't going to trial all the time, but when you go to trial and you buy, say, 2 trial boards, let's just back up out of all software.
Right.
You're spending a couple $100 just on your boards.
Absolutely.
And then after trial, what happens? You're going to crumple them up and throw them away. I mean, like there's some medical illustrations, I guess I've seen people use them at different times, but for the most part, it doesn't work that way anymore. And so we're very conscious that, we've got some big multinational companies that use us. We're really happy with that. We're really glad that we've got some huge firms out there that use us.
Right.
But our bread and butter and where we got started with our customers was mostly with small and solo firms. And these are people who are very conscious of their bottom line, not just for them, but for their client. And we're conscious of that too. So I love it when I hear a small or solo say, we made X number of commas from a jury verdict. And I think that's fantastic, especially when they did it with, a couple $100 app. And I think that's been in our blog post too. I'm not saying that our apps will make you win, but they will. No, they won't. But
no official guarantee.
no, but certainly they definitely will cut down on cost. They
absolutely
definitely will make you more mobile. They definitely will make you more efficient. And for as many hours as you save on one client, that's just the ability to take on another one.
Right.
This is the ability to work much more efficiently with your expert witnesses. It's much more efficiently working with your team, whether that's your support staff in the office or whether that's your legal videographer who's doing the depot clips. We have a little TranscriptPad excerpt, which is just like an edit decision list that you can send to them, and no matter what company they're using to sync and edit their videos, that they can just rip right through it really quickly. So we're also very conscious of, because we have most of our customers being those small and solo guys and gals, that and having that cost, that what we do makes them efficient. That's the whole purpose of it. And by the way, with TranscriptPad, which I know you love, one of the funny stories with that is we had a good friend, an attorney, very tech averse, but he broke his leg. And this is a guy who is coast to coast traveling. So when you break your leg and you're on a plane, you have that moment before you go to depot where you've got your Redwell or archive box or whatever, a banker's box, and you're saying, okay, what 5 depots in the case can I choose to bring with me? Well, you shouldn't have to make that choice, or can you just get me these 3 in a mini so that way I can put more depots? You, with your iPad, and we have customers who have their entire practice, every transcript in their practice on their iPad, because these transcripts are TXT file. It's minuscule. It's not going to take up any space on your iPad. Why not have it all? Why not search it all? And why not be so much more powerful, more prepared than everybody else in the room who doesn't have that,
I am so glad you say that. The way that I present this a lot of times to folks is I show a picture of somebody carrying a banker's box full of documents. And I ask, where do those documents come from? Right? The fact that you have paper in that box means that somebody printed everything from digital documents.
I realize sometimes emails.
You still have to have the printed paper sometimes in certain courts. I get that. But the point I say then is, if all of that is digital documents that were printed out, why not carry a copy of all those digital files on your iPad as well? It's just to your point, like even PDF files, depending on the size of the case, but even the smallest size of an iPad can hold hundreds of thousands of documents many times. And it's like, just if you have it on there, then at least you have a comfort level, a confidence level that you can access it when you need it. I think that's a great point on that. That's great.
And think about this too. How far has the iPad come? Back in 2011, we met you in New York and you said, come to Tech Show. I don't know what laptop you were using at the time, but I can guarantee you that my iPad is better than that laptop then.
Absolutely. And way more powerful.
We've come so far with just this tiny little tablet.
Right.
It's really incredible. And not only that, all of our apps now let you bring documents in or archive your case or do whatever. It interacts now with the USB. So I have a little SSD drive that holds 1 terabyte. I got an iPad that holds 1 terabyte. That's tremendous amount of data.
That's perfect. Okay, I want to go there next. I do, because that's exactly what I want to talk about on some of the new features that you guys have. I do just want to wrap this part up though and say, by the way, you guys do offer a 7-day free trial for the suite, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody hasn't used it, which I really can't imagine, but if you want to try it again or go and download it, you can get a free, you can use it for 7 days for free. And I mean, I know sometimes people are talking about the Apple App Store and everything, but it is extremely convenient because once you sign up, right, the subscription goes through the App Store. Isn't that right? Is that where it all goes?
You sign in with
it's
your
already
Apple
there.
ID.
It's
You sign in with Apple. We're not asking you to type in your credit card. We don't actually want your credit card information. We don't need that data. Apple handles all of it.
Right. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Like, people can try it out. It's great. You can have full functionality for 7 days. And then if you don't like it, before the 7 days, you can get rid of it, or you can just let it go and it's already taken care of for the subscription. So that's great. Okay.
And there is a sample case in each of our apps. And I mentioned this quickly, which is the Bear Arms Brewery versus Brotherwell Brewery. And Baylor University does a fantastic job with their problems that they put for. So it's very deep. It's got a great story. They have Everything from motions and filings to deposition transcripts that are in TXT format that we've got in TranscriptPad. It's a real case.
Oh, that's good.
So it's a good chance to kind of dig in and see what the app's capabilities are without using your own data. Of course, you can use your own data if you want to do that too. It doesn't make a difference.
Right. Okay, so I want to take the next few minutes to talk about some of the new features that you've put in. I mean, you've already highlighted several of them, Tara, which is great in TranscriptPad. But in TrialPad, exactly what you were just starting to talk about there was probably one of my most exciting things with the new updates. I remember initially TrialPad, you could connect to, I think you guys could connect to like Dropbox and use the iTunes software on the computer, right? To like move things over. And I think you still support that. But now, at least with the suite, if I'm not mistaken, you can piggyback on the Files app that is now built into the iPad iOS, or, came out, I think, in 11, but it's much improved in 13 and 14, iOS 14. So if you're running that, so now you basically can pull in files from anywhere, including like what you were just talking about, even a USB thumb drive or an external hard drive, which works great on the Files app. And so now that TrialPad can piggyback on top of that, you can pull files in from anywhere. Is that right?
You can. And even more important, possibly, you can pull them into anywhere. And I'll tell you what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Now, when you open up our app, so it used to be that you'd open up the apps and you'd have to access Dropbox through an API where we were pulling stuff in from Dropbox, and then it's going to be in the top level of your case. And then you have to choose to put it in a folder or organize it that way.
Oh, yeah, so now, you're right. Okay.
Now you don't do that. When you open up the Files app, what you're doing, when you first open Files app, you see on the left-hand side, you've got all the different locations where you can store your various files. And for our apps, when you first open it, now you're choosing where are you going to store your case, right?
Okay.
So we recommend storing it on my iPad. There's other options for you, but recommend storing it on your iPad. And then you go into your case, you create your case, you go into your case. Now you can start, either you can create a case template that already has, if you're doing, similar cases all the time, you might have a case template that has, expert witnesses, filings, damages reports, police reports, medical illustrations, whatever it is. And then you can go into that folder. And here's the thing. Now in your case, you pull things in from anywhere you want, from anywhere that works on your iPad. So
that's right. You have an import. Files. Yeah, you have an import files inside the TrialPad. Oh, that's
so you get in your case and you say, oh, here's my expert witnesses. And you can either import it that way, or if let's say you get an expert witness report and they email it to you. So you can open it in TrialPad. It opens it in. You've got a little one at the bottom and it says, where do you want to bring this in? Go to your expert witnesses folder, tap on that one, bring it in right there.
Nice.
Much more flexible.
Yeah.
And then because of the USB, again, instead of backing up your case, you used to have to archive it and then plug in your iPad.
I remember.
And either use the Files app or use iTunes to drag it off. None of that anymore. You can throw it on USB and share it. You can. It's much more flexible. And I can't emphasize enough how cool it is to be able to use that USB. Like I said, I'll even show you. Hang on, I have one.
Oh, good.
Here.
Okay, show and tell time. This is great.
Show and tell. I have this little, and I don't work for Samsung, as you know. It's a little portable SSD drive.
Right.
It's got a little terabyte. It's tiny. It's a couple credit cards sandwiched together.
Right.
And I can have all my cases, depending on how big my cases are, but pretty much all my cases backed up on here, as well as on my iPad. I can even have another iPad. I mean, the amount of data you can store now in a tiny amount of space, it's just incredible.
Right.
And if I want to share something, again, just attaching that to my iPad, it takes 2 seconds, not even, for it to say, oh, you have connected a USB. And what's better than even like on your Mac, where you have to, or your Windows computer, where you have to kind of eject it. The iPad realizes no one's going to be doing ejections.
Exactly.
Stuff. So you just yank it in, yank it out. It's just so flexible. That. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's really
that's
so
good.
I can't emphasize enough. USB.
I know. I love that because, doing a little bit of work like what Ian used to do, I didn't do anywhere near what he did, but when I would support trial teams, that's it. We would have 2 or 3 different hard drives, like USB hard drives, because you always got to have a backup of a backup of a backup, because you just never know, just to your point you made earlier. But having that capability now, having it copied onto your iPad and the local storage on the iPad itself is great. And then having it on 2 or 3 little terabyte USB, you could get USB-C drives, right? Which can go straight into the iPad.
Which is what this is.
Yeah, exactly. Or you know, if you have an older iPad Pro that has a Lightning, there's the camera adapter you can use. If you've got, there's multiple ways to get around it, and you just need to make sure you have those right adapters. But that is huge. People would always talk about, well, I've got everything on these external hard drives, and now they have the capability to do it on the iPad. That's really great. I was very excited to see that you guys were going to be using the Files app there. So that's good.
And I'll tell you what, our customers love it. I will say, for people that have our legacy apps and are starting to use this now, it's been a little bit of a, wait a minute, I can't, you know, so when you first open it and you go, why can't I get my files out? Because it's a little bit of a paradigm shift, but as soon as they've gone through the first time and imported and gone, oh, okay, I get it. This is how it works. Now you get it. Yeah. And it's so much better.
Well, it is different, and it's nothing to do with Lit Software or any other developers. No. It's the fact that Apple has kind of changed the way that the iOS works. We never had access to the local files, you know, the file structure inside the iPad, and they wouldn't give us access to all these things. We'd have to use other apps to do open in and that kind of stuff. Exactly. But anyway, that's the Files app. Exactly. Which I understand, and I'm glad that some of that is still there. But this Files app just really helps. There's I almost get perturbed now when I use an app that does not use the Files app background. So I was just thrilled to see that you guys went that way as well. So, okay, some other features that I know that you've added, a couple of ones that I was excited about. It doesn't sound that big of a deal, but the fact you can add maps in there, I could always add a photo into TrialPad, you know, from my photos roll, right? But now you can pull in a map, which is just amazing. I used to do screenshots first, you know, and then move it in, but it sounds like you can pull them in directly now.
You can pull it in directly, and then because it's using Apple Maps, you can do, where it's available, you can do the 3D stuff if you want. You can do satellite or not satellite. You know, this is really great for if you want to just talk about a location, or ages ago, we did a citrus canker case here in Florida. We're in Florida. And, you know, within a certain radius, all citrus trees around this canker tree have to be killed. And it's just so illuminating to a jury when you go, hey, check this out. And you draw that circle, and they realize that, you know, it's not just the farmer, but, you know, every lady that has a lemon tree in her back garden also has to get rid of her tree. You know, it just helps to illustrate the point, and not to mention, you know, car accidents or any of that stuff.
Well, and again, something that everybody has a phone. So the juries or audience, that whoever you're showing to, they know that they should have that capability. And I love the fact that you guys are bringing in some of that capability. Another thing I wanted to ask you about was the presenter notes. You can add notes now inside TrialPad for documents, right? How did that come about? Yeah,
it is. So what happened was, we're doing a lot of stuff when we're actually presenting in TrialPad. So what we don't allow is to be able to bring up, and some apps allow you to have like where you can have two apps up at the same time on your iPad. And TrialPad doesn't allow that because it's just doing too much other stuff to allow another app, you know, to share half the screen, right? So to put it kind of basically. So then what we're having was our customers with a piece of paper with their witness outline, and the documents in TrialPad showing the document, and it wasn't ideal. So we said, okay, how can they get? So now you can, in Pages or in Word or whatever word processor you might be using on your iPad, you can write up all the things you might want to ask about a specific page of a document, and you can copy that. And as long as it's under 4,000 characters, which is a lot of characters per page, not just per document, but per page of document. And you can paste it in there. But not only that, but each document also has its own key doc notes. So if you have a page of a document, that has its own notes. And then you can have that page of a document in 10 different witness outlines with their own 4,000 characters of notes. So great. It really allows you to just bring your whole witness examination around that particular document right in there. And what I've seen people doing is taking a key doc and maybe having it multiple times where they're going back to that document and they've got their same outline. And it just makes it's like a speaker's notes, which a lot of people like and don't like in Keynote or PowerPoint. It's like that. It's also really smart. So it doesn't get in the way of annotation. You've got a little, let me share it.
Yeah. If you don't mind, that'd be great. Well, I know some of this is going to be audio, so I'm just telling people I am going to post the video up on my YouTube channel so that you can actually see Tara. She's going in, which always makes me nervous, of course, because right now she's sharing her screen, but it's completely blank. Because that's exactly how TrialPad is supposed to work, which is great. Okay, now you're in war room mode here, which is great.
So Exactly. So TrialPad goes blank because we presume you're in a courtroom or in some kind of a forum
and
where
you're
you don't
connected to a projector, right? And or
or
TV.
a TV or whatever, and you don't want everyone to see all your different cases or your whole list of documents, right? But so this is the user interface. And if I tap on...
Which, by the way, is beautiful. You guys have done a fantastic job of like just polishing it up a little bit.
Thank you.
I liked it before, but you can tell, you just kind of contemporized it a little bit, and it's really nice.
That is all Ian. He's a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Really?
Really. I know this.
And if you weren't, the apps wouldn't be that good, but they're fantastic.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, go ahead.
Let's say that I go to my exhibit number 1 here, which is technically Defense 22, according to my exhibit stickers.
Right.
But if I want to add a note, I tap the note tool, and then here's where I can add my presenter notes. And you can see that I've got document notes or key doc notes. Right now I'm in my documents. And so here I can add any number and 0 out of 4,000. And I can add, I would like to ask about whatever. And if I just press enter, you can kind of see how it goes.
Yeah.
What I mean by it being a smart document is that right now, this little gray screen, even if I'm presenting this gray screen is obscuring my view of the document.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
But
that's great.
Let's say I want to highlight something. Watch what happens the minute I tap highlight. Oh, it disappears.
Nice.
So now I might have prompted myself, highlight, the section under yeast. And if I highlight it, the minute I lift my finger, look what comes back.
That is brilliant. Because on the screen right now, I'm just seeing the document and the highlight. So I see what you're talking about here. But the note, it's just having like a little Post-it note on the document or so. Yeah. This is brilliant. This is great.
And the best part is, let me just go to present. So this is if I'm on a Zoom call, which I actually am on a Zoom call with you. But if I'm on a Zoom call or in a Zoom trial or in trial, the jury sees what you're seeing now, right? We've got this little TrialPad for iPad. This tells you you're talking to whatever your output is.
You're connected.
I'm going to press present. So I've got my little highlight. I can ask about it, and then I can decide. And what I'm doing is I'm going to call out that section so that people can see what I'm talking about in the context of the document.
Yeah.
Without, and again, being able to just be focused in on something. And we talked about somebody being on their phone before. And if you're on your phone and you can't do something like this and call that out, that there's no way a witness is going to possibly be able to see that. Even if you try to zoom in, it's just never going to be as good as that call out. So
yeah. Even like I said, I love using TrialPad in I don't even do a courtroom. I always tell people, don't get hung up on the trial part of TrialPad. I use TrialPad in a conference room. Yeah. Well, I love it because it's not just for trial presentation. I use it in a conference room. But what I love about it is that if I go into a conference room and I'm trying to talk to somebody about a document, I don't want to take and make 15 copies and give everybody a copy. Or even if I do, they're not paying attention to that. They're watching me up on the screen, and I can zoom in and I can bring them exactly where I want them to be looking. I control their attention. And I don't care if you're in a conference room with clients or you're in a jury room and you're trying, with a jury or in a courtroom. It's like that to me is the most powerful component of it. And just having those tools.
We have another thing I want to, go ahead. There's another featured pro that we talked about. His name's Evan Klein. He's from Pennsylvania. You may have met him at Tech Show.
Of course. I know Evan well.
And so Evan talks about using TrialPad really for client meetings for exactly kind of the thing you're talking about. Whether you're, maybe in past times in their house, sitting down with them, going through the different documents. This is an iPad is something that you could literally pull out in an elevator and walk someone through the different documents you're talking about. It's that kind of a close situation. He can do it in his conference room, same as what you just described. And it really helps, I think, when you're talking to a client where most of your clients are not litigators. They don't know what to expect. Once again, might be the most important day of their lives or week of their lives, depending on their trial. And for them to be comfortable with not just the document, but your ability to show it and present it, I think is really important when you're trying to keep a good client relationship.
Right. One better. Now we're doing Zoom. Yeah. I connect my iPad to my laptop. My laptop, I'm on Zoom, but I connect my iPad and I use that as a way to either control my, if I do a PowerPoint presentation or I'm using TrialPad, and I use it through my computer. I think just exactly the way that you were doing, which is just great. If you don't mind, I want you to share your screen just real quick. A couple more features I wanted to ask you about on this, which I just thought was great. I remember that you could always do the two different documents side by side, but then I would want to call out on one side, a section, and then the other document, I want to call out something. And sometimes it would just get a little bit bulky and having those, different call outs on there. But I think you have even like some vertical call out capabilities now on this, right? You've improved even that.
Let me actually, okay, so I'm just going to go back to one document.
This is okay, good. Yeah.
This is, so we made that specifically for spreadsheets because
yes. Okay, good.
So if you do just a horizontal call out, it doesn't really work usually with a spreadsheet. So now you'll be able to call out a whole column and let's say compare, like I said, this is kind of a beer case. So you might compare what you sold in lager versus what you sold in stout.
That's beautiful. That's so great. I love that so much more. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like, first of all, it seems like it's a little faster now in the way that it goes, and which is great because you don't want to lose somebody's attention on there. But that looks good. And the other thing quickly that I loved, I think you call this is it the document label at the top there? I don't know if that was there before, Tara.
It wasn't.
But I love that because now, I mean, I know you have the exhibit sticker, but this is like an actual, almost like a dynamic label at the top of your document so that, the judge or somebody can make sure that you're on the right page. Everybody can see you're on the exact page that you say you're supposed to be on of a particular exhibit. Now you can toggle that off and on. I think I saw in one of your videos there. Okay.
So I have a show document label or not, and I can show you where that is in a second. But a big point of this was that, a lot of times the jury knows that they're looking at exhibit 34 in this particular case. But when we're on page, and this is a 6-page exhibit, when we're on page 6, this is the last page of that exhibit, they don't necessarily know that they're on page 6. And when you're moving back and forth through this spreadsheet, page 4, page 6, comparing stuff, and they're trying to take notes, unless there's a label up there for them. Otherwise, they don't know what page you're on. And so it's really helpful to a jury to be able to follow along to go, okay, I remember that I think it was really important to look at page 4, of that particular exhibit. So
that's great.
Yeah, that was the point of it.
It's a tiny thing, but it's huge, exactly for what you're talking about. And so even the other side can make sure that you're not on a different page or showing something different. That is absolutely brilliant. All right, so now you're on the back end here in the war room mode again.
Back in war room mode, and I just want to show you where that is. It's really at the bottom. So the bottom has that show document label toggle on and off.
Okay.
But what this also is that you see it's a little clock. This is all my recently presented documents.
I love that.
Been in trial. So when we're in April 15th, you can see last time I was in this case was, looks like last month. But during a week of trial, it's really nice to be able to very quickly find that if you're toggling between 3 or 4 different documents all the time, to be able to just tap on here and go back to the recipe, go back to my profit and loss, back and forth, back and forth.
That's great. I mean, I used to kind of do something like that with key docs, but I love having that log now, the presentation log.
Yes, exactly. So the log, that's the recently presented, and you can actually create a report on what was presented. So when we talk about
that's beautiful.
What was, we used to have just the evidence list. Now you've got a presentation log, and we're talking about making an evidence list for the purposes of appeal. And that goes through all the different documents that have been admitted and has their exhibit sticker and creates a nice little PDF of that. The presentation log is yet another layer for that appeal. Where you can see exactly what was presented, what day, what time. I'm going to open it up so you can kind of see what it looks like. So this will tell me the exhibit number, how many pages, day and time presented.
That's great.
Right? All the information. And then if you have created those presenter notes, that other report presenter notes, it will create a report with, it looks like I don't have any presenter notes in here. So
with the notes in it though. Okay, that's okay. That's beautiful. No, it's great the fact that you have that option
next to it. Yeah.
Right. All right. And then the last thing, for crying out loud, it's like, I know we got to wrap this up. We haven't even talked about some of the others, but bookmarks is another thing that I just love. I think you may have had that for a while or maybe not, but that's a great addition on there too. So you can jump to a specific spot, right? Inside of a document.
Bookmarks has been totally revamped literally within the last week. And by the way, when you were talking about us being able to update now more frequently, since January, we've literally pushed out 16 updates.
Oh my goodness.
And we are April 15th. So that can be anything from a little tiny bug fix to a whole brand new feature. And one of the brand new features we've pushed is bookmarks. We always had bookmarks, but they were exclusive to TrialPad, right? So they only lived in TrialPad. If you brought in a document that already had bookmarks, TrialPad didn't recognize them. You had to make your own bookmarks in TrialPad. And when you exported that document, again, it didn't export with the bookmarks. It was just for use in TrialPad. And the original purpose of it was, let me see if I have a long document here. I don't think I do. Okay, well, here's a 10-page document.
Okay.
And here I can add my bookmark and I can say that this is
you can name it whatever you want,
name it whatever
which is great.
You want.
Right.
And then I can go, let me just cancel that. So let's say that I want to go to this particular chart, and this is Note 2 chart. So I can add a bookmark and call it Note 2.
Right.
And then no matter where I am in the document, I can always go right back to Note 2.
And just add the book. That's almost like a PDF bookmarks. I mean, but that's so powerful. That's great.
You just said it. It is now a PDF bookmark.
Oh, boy.
You've created your bookmark. That's the big feature. So let's
love that.
A document. You've made all your bookmarks in the PDF. When you import it, now TrialPad recognizes that you made those bookmarks and they're already in there. And not only that, but if I make,
So wait, if you're saying if I have a PDF with already that already has bookmarks, I could import that in, and the bookmarks are there?
Yes.
Okay, that's very nice. That is very nice. Okay, go ahead.
If you make more bookmarks, when you export it and you open it up in Adobe, those bookmarks are there. So now it's fully fleshed
very powerful.
Bookmarking. You can import it, export it. And the same thing happens, by the way, with DocReviewPad. Import bookmarks. When you export it to TrialPad, TrialPad recognizes them. If you export it and you just open it up as a PDF in Adobe, again, you're recognizing the bookmarks. So that's been a really nice new feature. I know it seems like a small detail, but useful wise,
it's huge.
It really is.
I talk about PDF bookmarks all the time. I don't know why people don't utilize them more. I mean, even if you want to go as far as like an e-brief, right? Where you have to submit, today you e-file something, but why would you not include like a clickable table of contents? That's what I call it.
Especially if you've got multiple exhibits at the end or tabs at the end.
Exactly. Like you don't want to have people like scroll through 500 pages looking for something. Mm-hmm. But wow, knowing that, Tara, that you have this capability and you can read that's fantastic. I just thought it was going to be a nice little ending feature to talk about, but man, you've blown my mind on that. That's really, really absolutely fantastic.
And then after that, since people seem to like bookmarks so much, we decided why not? We'll just go ahead and throw them into TranscriptPad as well. So now you've got TranscriptPad bookmarks, and those aren't the Adobe version, because remember, you're just using TXT in TranscriptPad.
Right.
But what you do have is the ability to say, okay, here's where I start my cross, depending on what party you are to the deposition,
right?
And you can just focus right on that. Or here's where this particular counsel, who maybe isn't in the case, started their questioning. And it's just very easy, especially when you start getting those really long all-day depos, to just really skip right to the meat of what you want to look at and make that bookmark, and then you can just tap on the bookmark and skip to the next time when you do your redirect, for example.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Tara, I can't thank you enough for being on today and spending a long time with us. But this is good. I think it's been fantastic for folks to hear a little bit about your background and why you guys are committed to this and building these apps and how the features you continue to develop in there. By the way, I think I alluded to the fact you have a great YouTube channel with people wanting to get a little bit more in depth. I know you and I talked a lot about the different features and stuff, but if you want to see it, those videos are really excellent. So I'll have a link to the YouTube channel in there so that people can go and look a little bit more about the different apps.
Not only our YouTube channel, we also have all those same videos in our help center, which if you go to litsoftware.com and tap on the help center, it's now got searchable help articles, searchable FAQs, and the videos are on there. So we're really trying to make it so that anybody who wants to get up and running with these apps can do that, from their own home, where they can always reach out and ask us a question. We're happy to help. I think I told you before that I find a lot of attorneys really learn well by asking questions, and surprise, like that's the whole nature of the business, right? So you ask the question, you learn the case. And a lot of times that's like, you ask the question. And so that's why we have support at litsoftware.com. We answer our emails at all hours of the day. I think
I know
we're
you
known
do.
for that.
I know you do.
We try to provide as many FAQs as possible. We try to provide all the answers to all the questions to make our usable apps used. That's the goal. And by the way, you didn't ask me about my new app. The new app, so actually I piloted it just to see, how it would work back in mid-March in a trial in Tampa. And it's a very, very straightforward, simple app. And the idea was that during COVID, whenever juries come back, you probably don't want to give them one binder to all kind of breathe and pour over and annotate.
Right.
Nor do you want to send them with a DVD and a DVD player and a TV into the back room to figure out what they. So So now the idea is that you can, it's called ExhibitsPad. You'll be able to load all your documents in video.
Okay.
Yeah. And in TrialPad, you can, by the way, like you saw, we had exhibit stickers. You can mark things admitted. So literally, as you are presenting in TrialPad, you can just export all your admitted documents to a USB, throw it onto as many iPads as you have jurors. And then it's a very simple view the document, annotate the document with some highlights and markups, and view any videos. So in the deliberation room, this is an opportunity for the jurors to sit socially distanced and talk about the documents while viewing it on their own device or video on their own device.
Interesting. Okay, so it's basically like you're providing binders here, but they're electronic digital binders on iPads.
Yeah. But better than a binder, a video plays if you need to play video. So we're talking about deposition clips or surveillance video. All of that stuff can be wound, rewound, all that. Yeah, so much more powerful.
So quickly, you were just talking about the fact you guys just knew this was a natural extension of what you wanted to offer with. I mean, it's really a complementary app to already what you're doing, especially in TrialPad.
And for a while, we've had a couple of our customers ask us if we could create something that they could give to a deponent in person deposition, and say, hey, here's all the documents. But maybe they didn't want to, provide them a binder where they were going to be able to page through the different tabs and just, it was more like a piecemeal feed them the document sort of thing. So it also accepts airdrop. So if you are, in deposition, you can airdrop next. Okay, now take a look at this document, and it's feeding them one by one. It really puts the power into your hands. And then, of course, the idea for it going back to a jury, the reason why we keep it really, really simple is this is like view your exhibits. You can search them by the name of the document. And you can save the ones that you think are most important and mark them up. And so it really just helps with the whole deliberation process. Or again, if you've got someone across the room. Now, all that said, I mentioned this to another one of our featured pros who's a divorce attorney in California. And when I was telling her about this, she's like, this is fantastic. Even in this age of Zoom, I can load an iPad and FedEx the iPad to my deponent and then just say, well, open up the FedEx package. And then you've got all your documents in there, and there's no...
It's right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's probably a lot of uses that we'll find from ExhibitsPad, but the intention when we were creating it really was to be able to provide an electronic copy of everything, save a couple trees and not put everything on a DVD. I can't tell you how annoying it is for after trial, everyone to try to figure out what exactly goes on the DVD video to go back to the jury. And by the way, who uses even a DVD anymore? That's the other thing,
I don't even have a player
anymore. What am I even going to do with that? Yeah.
So
let alone how are we going to burn this DVD and make sure that we get it back into the deliberation room so that they can play it back.
So the thing, but it's not even just saving trees or doing that. But again, the fact that they can search it. Can't search paper documents in the same way. You can pull something up quickly. You can't play media. And I got to tell you, I know you guys are seeing this. So many more of litigation matters or divorce matters, almost anything today is involving more and more like social media and interactive media, dynamic media, whether they're videos or short videos. I mean, this is great that you're providing a platform now for people to be able to view this and be able to access it. That's really fantastic. I can't wait.
I think you probably know that Apple allows you to lock down an iPad so that there's no concern about. So you get into ExhibitsPad, you can lock it specifically in ExhibitsPad. There's no concern about the jury just going, all right, let's go just download some Netflix and then make up a. I think juries, by the way, I think they get a bad rap from a lot of lawyers. I think they generally really take their job very seriously. So that said, with a little bit of tongue in cheek, but they're not going out on Facebook. They're not, combing the headlines. They're not going to go watch a Netflix movie instead. It's locked down on this app. It's only got the stuff that, has been admitted into trial. And if anything needs to be added, again, it's just a USB and it's going, okay, here's give me your iPads. And like I said, I piloted this in Tampa a month ago. And in that case, it was a kind of a Zoom hybrid trial, and we were just using it because we were socially distanced for the parties that were in the courtroom. And handing out iPads to everyone. We had 7 iPads in the courtroom. And I can tell you from my own experience, I loaded those iPads every morning and every evening, and it took under a minute to load all 7 iPads with tremendous amounts of data. This was a long trial. So it's really fast. It's going to be very convenient. And anyway, I think that our users are going to really like
I can already list like 2 or 3 judges that I've known that have reached out to me, from Apps and Law, that would just be thrilled to have access to something like this, right?
Yeah.
It just streamlines the entire process for them. Yeah. Oh, that's great. ExhibitsPad. Now, you have the Lit suite. So is ExhibitsPad like part of the suite now, or is that going to be kind of an add-on, or how's that going to work?
ExhibitsPad is going to be a free app available for everyone, so that way, your budgetless counties out there in America can say, wow. I mean, they'll still have to buy the iPads. So that's free to everyone. It's going to help if you have TrialPad and you can very easily,
absolutely.
Because I'm in TrialPad, I select all my admitted exhibits, I throw them on this USB, and then I stick them on that iPad. So of course it's going to help if you've got our apps anyway. They're going to integrate really nicely, but you don't need them. Just as long as you have, if the clerk has all of the PDFs, the clerk can just as easily pop it on a USB and throw it onto to ExhibitsPad. I think that our customers are going to love it because it's a good add-on. But yeah, it's going to be for anyone.
So it's yes and no. It is part of the suite in the way that, to me, it's not going to work as beautifully or as seamlessly unless you have the Lit Suite apps, which you should have anyway. But wow, the fact that that's really amazing that you guys are putting that out there and available for folks as well. I can absolutely tell that's going to be pretty big, even for a lot of the state courts. The lower courts that I know, they don't have the budget always necessarily, especially on the print. It takes so long to print something out, for crying out loud.
And it's
like
expensive.
I don't want to have to deal with that anymore.
It's expensive to print stuff.
Yeah. So
and I know that there's going to be
and
there's going to be a cost, obviously, because you're going to need an iPad to run it. So there's going to be a cost there. But I think that if you take an iPad and you see how many iPads we're going to need for this case, and then you have them for the courthouse, I don't know. And there is an expense to printing, and there's a time expense to printing.
The thing that I see is that it sounds like you don't need like the highest, most powerful iPad either, Tara, right?
No,
I mean, for something like this, it could, not that you're going to go out and buy older iPads necessarily, but I'm saying that over the course of 3 or 4 years, if you're reusing the iPads for folks and, putting it with ExhibitsPad on here, that you don't need to, you're going to save money from the printing side. I guess that's my point that I'm making there.
You have to be able to run
I don't have a problem. Yeah, I don't see a problem getting the iPads, only because I know what I've seen throughout my last few years. Like, there's a lot more people that are open to this, and even from a court side, or certainly from practitioners, that they see it now as a tool that it's almost a must-have, just like having a laptop or a mobile phone. Like today, this is another tool that they need, and you're just giving them more reasons to make sure they have one.
Yeah, well, great. I mean, I do think, and I do think that Lit software has really, in terms of the litigation world, has really pushed the usability of the iPad, because look, a tablet or of any kind, an iPad device, is only as good as the software that's running on it, right? Yes. So you need to have great software that is, I keep harping on this, but not just usable, but that you actually use. And in creating that, I think that I've heard of a lot of our own customers who said, I went out and bought an iPad because I saw somebody using this in trial, and so now I've got it. So it's been very organic and very word of mouth. In terms of ExhibitsPad, just to go back, you need to be able to run iPadOS 13 or later, which I think shouldn't be a big task. And again, that USB is really going to be the best way to get stuff onto the iPad. So it's got to be able to connect to a USB. But other than that, that's kind of all you need.
Tara, you have been absolutely fantastic. Thanks for spending all of this time now answering all the questions, putting all the information out.
Your time.
I'm going to have links to no, don't apologize. So the Lit software website, we've got your help zone, which I know is really great. The help center, thank you. And the apps, your YouTube video, and also again, your blog, the blog post on there. I tell people, if you want to get an idea of how somebody can use these apps, you've got some great posts on there from folks, power users, if you will, that are really explaining how they're incorporating it in their practice, which is great.
And if I can just plug this too, do sign up to our email.
I was going to say that.
You are not going to get 10 emails a week. Really, you're going to get maybe our blog post. If we create a really big update, you'll get a notification about that. If there's something really important that Apple releases, you'll get a notification about that. It's really just our list is not to sales you about happy Valentine's Day. We love Valentine's Day, but we're not going to wish you a happy Valentine's Day.
I will attest to that. In fact, because I know, because you don't send out very many, when I see one come through, I read it every single time because I know it's going to be something good.
As well.
And you do a great job on that.
So,
yes.
We've got, here's what we would like you to read about. If it's interested to you, here's the link. It takes you to our blog.
Yeah.
And we try to just be informational. So if I can plug that, I know,
absolutely.
I know, especially after this year with, after the holidays when I've signed up to because I did all my shopping, obviously, for the holidays online, and I've got too much email. I feel the pain of people who go, no, I don't. I get too much. Really, it's infrequent and it's very informational.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can do that. I think it's the bottom of your website, right? Yeah. Almost every page has a place where you can sign up. And I absolutely agree. It's a great way to kind of keep on top of what's happening with you guys on there, including ExhibitsPad. I'm very excited about that. Yeah. Tara, thank you again so much for joining us today. It's been great having you on. Best of luck with ExhibitsPad and everything else coming. I'll have links in the show notes to all of the things we've mentioned there. And if you want to look for more app reviews, including, by the way, I did a 2-part review on TranscriptPad. Now that's the older version. I got to update now, but lots of people were loving that because, just like you said, they had questions about exactly how they were going in. So that's on my site, appsandlaw.com. You can also subscribe to these podcasts from your computer, your iPhone, or your iPad. Thanks again for being here, Tara. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you for inviting me. Me.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Take care.